creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk. Jari Love. Anything about fitness, and if you've been in Calgary, you'll know fitness through Jari Love. Jari Love, thank you very much for joining me on Shed Talk.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
And you know what's been interesting? I've known you for years, and anybody that's ever been in Calgary, anybody that's ever worked out, anybody that's ever been at the Repsol Center, anybody that's ever been at Get Ripped would know you.
It's been an amazing career, and I can't even believe that I'm still doing it at my age.
And
I can't believe it.
At your age. Now,
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say the age?
Yes, I'm proud to be 59. Yeah, and we've been at it's now the MNP, 23 years. Can you believe it? Who would have known?
You're 59 years old. You've
Yes.
been with MNP for 29 years?
Well, 23. But after 23, we forget counting.
That's right. Who's counting? Yeah, how true. Who's counting? Oh, this is amazing. So at 59 years old, how did you get started in this?
Well, it's interesting because my mom was a professional opera singer. I actually have 5 sisters. And we opened for Bob Hope in New Orleans when the Superdome was built. We represented Canada and opened for a lot of celebrities. It was actually my mom's dream, not maybe my dream. I didn't want to be a singer, but that's what our path was geared towards. And when our record deal in Nashville fell apart, I guess I was devastated, because you put all your eggs in one basket, and I was really, really discouraged. And my mom suffered with depression, and I'm the oldest of 5 sisters. And watching my mom go through depression and her being morbidly obese, I learned at a very young age how her weight prevented her from being the best that she can be and living that life to the fullest. She suffered through depression, and I kind of took care of my sisters, and I got into exercise, and I knew the benefits of exercise. And really, when our record deal fell apart, I actually embraced in running, and just felt better about myself and fought through the depression. However, if I can go back, in 1983, living in Calgary, I'm a Calgarian. Calgary went through one of its worst recessions. I don't know if you were in Calgary, Kevin. Were you? Or?
Oh, no, I was totally in Calgary, born and raised here.
Okay.
So, yes.
Do you remember the recession? And people were losing their homes.
19% interest rates?
Yes, that's right. And it was a really, really tough time. And I wanted to get a job, like so bad. And I actually landed a job at, I don't know if anybody remembers Family Fitness. And back in the day, I think it's, I don't know if it's World's Gym Southport, but the basement, that's where the weight room was, and it was a carpeted floor. But anyways, I got the job, and I was so excited. I was young, but back in the day, the dress code was like high heels and spandex, and you had to look the part, and we weren't allowed to sit in a chair. But I loved the job. I can tell you that the energy was electrifying,
Because of the high heels?
No, not because of the high heels. To this day, I don't even wear high heels. But, I love the job. I thought, this is such a positive experience. But what ended up happening, Kevin, is the instructor didn't show up. And I was overweight at the time.
What's overweight?
Okay, well, I would maybe 10 pounds, right?
So, and that's what as we're getting in there, because some people, they use a buzzword like obese, overweight.
Overweight, correct.
So is overweight for a female or for a male would be, and I don't know what those numbers are.
The way I look at it, whether someone has 5 pounds to lose or 10 pounds to lose, a woman is going to think that she's obese in her head, even though she might be overweight. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so, I don't know, I just knew I was overweight. I never exercised, and I was working in a male-dominated fitness facility, and the manager came up and he said, "You got to go teach that class." And I was like, I've never exercised before. Like, I don't know, I don't know how to teach. And he said, doesn't matter, you've got to go teach, or you're going to basically get fired. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have any clothes here. I have high heels. Like, what? Oh, I don't have anything here. So what he did is he went into the lost and found clothing for me to wear. And I was mortified, like, oh my gosh, I'm wearing someone's wrinkled t-shirt, someone's like, I think they were satin shorts, someone's running shoes, and I'm having to go up on the stage. It's a packed class. And I'm like, dear Jesus, please help me get through this class, They put the music on, and I was like, I'm running, and I'm thinking, okay, they're running, and then I'm running fast, and I'm running slow, and I'm running with my arms up, and I'm doing the do-si-do, and I had a microphone back in the day where you basically, it was a handheld, and you had this huge cord running along, and I'm like trying to do jumping jacks and thinking like, this is like in my singing days, right? But people hated the class. One by one, Kevin, they left. I'm standing there on stage going, oh my gosh, they hate me, But what was interesting is it was magical. Like, I felt this magic come over me, and really what it was is it was the endorphins that had kicked in, and I felt like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. So that's how I got my start in becoming a fitness instructor.
Okay, I'm deep diving this.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you remember the song, the first song that came in there? Because going back, I don't even know back in the 80s, what would it have been?
She's a Maniac.
And that's what it was?
Mm-hmm. And we had...
Flashdance?
Of course.
Oh, and you were doing the scene on Flashdance right on the front and saying, okay, everybody.
Felt like it, but I was so out of shape. Like, I was huffing and puffing, and, I'm looking at people and they're upset, and the instructor that's coming, next to me, she's kind of laughing, and oh my gosh, it was an awful experience, but at the same time, the best one, right?
Yeah, and it's amazing because you're looking at that and you remember the song.
Yep.
You remember that changing point in your life, what we call, I always look at it as like the fork in the road.
Yeah.
That one thing that if you did this or this and you're forced to go into it, because you don't plan on doing something, you force yourselves into doing something, and then great things come of it, because it's never a bad thing, it's a great thing.
Totally.
And then looking at the opera, like taking the experience of being in the opera, like in the entertainment industry, then all of a sudden thrown back into the entertainment industry.
It's crazy. Like, I can remember my mom making us practice with fake microphones, and she would have pretend this is a camera, pretend this is a camera, and camera here. And so we'd all have to look to the right, and then camera here to the left. She loved Lawrence Welk and the Lennon sisters. And I think she was living vicariously through them, and that's what we were learning, all the Lennon sisters songs. It was amazing.
So going into that, and you said it failed. Why did it fail?
Because of Shania Twain. She blew up in the country industry. And this is my understanding, because when we were cold calling in Nashville, we went to RCA Records, and they said, okay, so what's your hook? We said, we're sisters. And I think it was Joe Galante just looked at us and was like, oh my gosh, you guys are sisters? And we said, yeah. And, we were all blonde. All blonde, right?
Yeah, good looking.
No,
obvious.
well,
yes,
well,
yes.
and he said, do you guys write your own music? And my sisters out of nowhere were writing tunes that I'm looking at them thinking, I didn't even know you had that in you, So what happened is they actually came down here from Banff to come hear our materials, and they played golf. They were just so impressed with Banff and blown away with it. And the head guy of RCA just said, I promise you we'll get this development deal. And, so happy. Like, we thought, all that tough work, hard work, tenacity paid off. And then shortly after, they just said no. And my understanding, please don't quote me, but Shania blew up in Nashville and changed the way country music was being played. And a lot of the labels were getting rid of top artists because they weren't producing. And so they just kept the key ones going. And that was my understanding. So that's why. And they got rid of development deals and, had to do all those
What's a
cutbacks.
development deal?
Development deal is where they're going to invest money into the artist and, have writers and producers and all of that. So we really were excited about that.
So then you go into that. Now you're finishing that off. Like they said, no, it's over.
Yeah.
Mom goes into depression right after that.
Mom was not involved in our music career at that time. We had some unfinished business to do, my sisters and I, because, my mom's no longer here. She, passed away in her 50s. When I was saying her 50s, like 50, I want to say. Morbidly obese, got cancer, but, we just wanted to try this on our own, without our mother, because our mom was very controlling, and kind of one of those mommy managers and being the oldest, is kind of kicking back. But she had, now that she's no longer here, I am so grateful because all the stuff that she taught us when we were younger, I was able to carry it through my video business.
And then from the video, like getting back, like the actual objection. Okay, I'm going to dig down.
Yeah.
The actual objection of them telling you, okay, Shania Twain's doing good. And this is what they told you versus we don't want to have any more. Was there any point that you say, okay, can we try something different? Or was it, I can't believe it. I'm just beat up. I'm not doing this anymore.
It's very interesting that you say that. I did not like singing. I remember being at the CMA Awards. We were invited and hiding behind a pillar and seeing some of the celebrities. I felt like I wasn't in my place there. And our manager was like, Jerry, get away from that pillar. If you want to be a star, you got to act like a star. And it just wasn't me. And I really feel you have to be authentic to who you are. And I was not that person. But I will say, my some of the other sisters, really, I hope they're not listening, but they probably had a harder time than myself because I actually was relieved, I was married, I had, babies, and it just wasn't me.
And it's interesting because it's a time in life that all of a sudden you think it's the greatest thing is you're going to be a celebrity. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're looking the entertainment world back then, how you got into the entertainment world as a singer, an opera singer. And you're obviously a very good singer to be able to do that, but I haven't heard you sing yet.
No.
Do you do any singing now?
Sure. Well, I can sing on my own.
Right. Great for karaoke? A little better?
No. I don't get, I get dragged to do karaoke, but
no, it's not.
No.
It's not. Okay, that's kind of like I'm shooting off into the off topic, but and you think about it back then, how artists were, and then fast forward to where artists are today with social media and where they pop up and then do that. It's like a totally different mind shift.
Yeah, it's hard.
Oh yeah.
I just really feel you have to be real with who you are and what do you stand for and what are your core values, right? Because, meeting people in the entertainment, some of the people were a little bit shady and some of the stuff was inappropriate. And my mom did a really good job with raising us on, core values and, who we are, and don't sell yourself. Don't sell yourself. You don't have to dress inappropriate or, act crazy or that. And that's just not me.
So take that idea of you're not allowed. So in the entertainment world, from the experience that you're sharing, so going to that, now you've moved and you did your first class, okay, with flash dance.
Which bombed, yeah.
Bombed, which is, it should have, okay, which it should have.
Yeah.
Which is great because now the adrenaline's going. And then now you're on to your second one. Now you're excited about it. Now the actual attire you're wearing has nothing to do with the attire in the entertainment because you've got a rental shirt, you've got this, you don't have the high heels on anymore, you got the mic, which you brought the experience in. Now it goes to the second class.
Crazy.
What happens?
So how I was actually running at the MNP facility Ray and I, my husband used to own Fitness Plus. We got married, and I loved teaching, group fitness classes. And I didn't want the drama of working for him and people gossiping about us. And so I went to another facility, and they made me audition, even though I had taught there before. And they said, no, we're not going to hire you.
An audition.
An audition. I had to audition to teach group fitness classes. So you had like a panel, and they would, look at you and think if you had what it took to teach at this facility. So I got rejected again. I thought, oh gosh, I'm a loser. so I actually started working out at, I'm going to call it MNP, but I was actually running, and an instructor said, Jari, how come you're not teaching? You used to teach. You should go back teaching. And I at that time, I think it was in the year around 2000, I noticed a change in group fitness classes. They weren't packed. A lot of classes that were busy were more the Pilates and the yoga. There were no weight classes there.
And there's no CrossFit at this time,
No,
obviously.
nothing.
There's nothing like that.
Yeah. So
Or spin, right?
or spin, nothing. Right. And I remember thinking, gee, these classes are kind of dead here. Like, I wonder what's going on, because it used to be like in the 80s, it was nuts. It was like a party on the gym floor where you can get in shape and meet people. It was kind of sexy in a way,
The disco era.
Disco era, yeah, for sure. And what happened, I got injured through running. I became a competitive runner as a result of not being able to teach group fitness class. I thought, okay, well, I'll just run. And so I was running, and I saw this pamphlet from a TCR lab, and it was to get your VO2 test done and get your heart rate zones. And I thought, I'm going to do this. So I get hooked on the VO2 machine, and Corey's like, oh my gosh, Jari, your numbers are amazing. Like, you've got a high VO2, like you have. And I'm thinking, I do? Like, I'm just so, like, that to me was like that rock star feeling, like you've got what it takes to be good at this. So I knew what my max heart rate was. I knew what zones I needed to be in. And so I hired Corey to coach me. And I was doing well. I was competing and 5-kilometer races, half marathons, and doing unbelievable for my age. And then I got injured through running, and I had gone back to school to become a personal trainer, and I knew the benefits of weight training, but I didn't want to get big and bulky. So that's how I started. And I noticed that I'm just taking over, but Kevin, feel free to interrupt.
No, I'm going to interrupt as we're going, because
Yeah.
it's interesting, because here's your VO2 max. You're up there. Your heart rate's there. You've done these 5 and 10Ks. Now, how fast can you do a 10K on your run? Your best time?
44 minutes.
44 minutes.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. And I have a max heart rate of 199. Like, it's the only way to train smarter rather than harder, right?
199 at what age?
190.
At what age?
I was in my 30s.
At 190. What would you think your max heart rate is today at
Probably
50?
just a little bit lower, but
Than 199?
yeah. You're born with your heart rate, right?
Yeah.
What you can improve is the VO2. And Corey said to me, "Oh my gosh, you've got a VO2 of a hockey player, like a pro hockey player." And I'm like, me, Jari Love, So when I got injured,
What did you injure?
I think my calf, because you're doing a lot of eccentric work. Like, I pulled my calf muscles, they froze up. And I really liked running because it was a great way to keep my weight down. And I went to see Corey, and I'm like, Corey, how many calories can you burn doing weight training? Because I'm motivated by the science behind things. And he scratched his head, and he's like, I don't know, like I'm a guy. We just weight train to build muscle. But from a women's perspective, at least for mine, is how many calories can I burn so that I will do the work,
Right.
And he said, well, I don't know, and I just had an aha moment. I said, well, why don't we go on the VO2 machine? And the VO2 tests not only your how you utilize oxygen at certain intensities, but your max heart rate, calories burned, substrate utilized, do you burn carbohydrates, do you burn fat here? So I'm hooked on this machine. It's about, I don't know, $80,000, and I'm doing like a bicep curl, which burned 2 calories per minute. But I'm like, let's try the squat and bicep curl. And he's like, oh my gosh, Jerry, you're burning as many calories like as if you're running a 10K race. Like, it was crazy. The numbers were 8 calories per minute and some were 12 calories per minute. And I just went, it was like I was flooded with ideas, right? So that's how I created the Get Ripped. And now the job was, because it was like, I am going to help women be the best that they can be and get ripped.
Is that how you came up with Get Ripped, the actual name?
No, what happened is I had a group of instructors. We were teaching Ripped, and we had so many, I can't remember the names.
Well, let's go back to the aha moment, because we'll get to the names. But the aha moment, all of a sudden you're on your VO2 max. We've got 2 pounds, okay? Now we're going to add a squat in there. So we're going to add another 2 pounds, another 6 calories, 7 calories per minute.
Yes.
So we are at 25 calories per minute.
Yeah.
25 calories per minute. And I'm thinking of a stair row, or as I'm going through this, as heart rate at maximum, or not maximum, but heart rate's in there. So you were able to do the research and say, okay, the exercise that you've done and Get Ripped is going to, by the time we're done, you will have burned 1,000 calories. And I'm not saying 1,000, let's say 500 calories. Let's be realistic.
Sure.
I'm assuming.
Up to 1,000 because
Right.
we, I'll tell you what happened after. But
Right.
so I've got all these numbers, and I'm like, this is amazing. I'm going to go to this MNP facility and I'm going to pitch this idea.
Meanwhile, they've already kicked you out.
No, they didn't. No,
The audition part?
Yeah, that was at another facility.
Oh, okay.
So I'm running at the MNP. I'm just a member.
Right, okay.
You know, but I'm loving it there. I love the culture there. I'm not in Ray's facility because, it was better for our marriage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? So I go to the coordinator at the time and I'm like, I got this great idea. What if we run this type of class? And here's what it is. And they went, nope, not interested. I'm like, what do you mean you're not interested? No, no, it's not going to fly. I consistently knocked on his door for 3 months to finally he said yes. Finally he said, well, give it a try.
Because you irritated the hell out of him?
Totally.
Cool.
Totally. I believed in it that much.
Yes.
And, but he was smart. What he did was he put me in at a 4:00 time. Well, at the time, who works out at 4:00? It's either prime times are like 5, 5:30, 6, or 7 o'clock. And I knew that because I worked, in the fitness industry for so many years. And I thought, I'm going to prove you wrong.
At 4 o'clock.
At 4:00. 4:00, 5 people showed up. And because I had so much science and knowledge behind the program and being a certified personal trainer, I said, this is like a personal training session. I'm going to educate you on the benefits to these people. And then I said, how would anybody want to be tested in the lab where you can find out how many calories you burn and what substrate you utilize and what your max heart rate? Of course they all wanted to do it.
So that's 5.
That's 5. So they all went and we tested them in Corey's lab. We tested them in the racquetball courts at Fitness Plus. It was like a game changer. People were so motivated, and it was like the guerrilla effect where people were just telling one friend, and so the friggin' class grew to over 100 people.
How quick?
I want to say within a month. And then, there was such a demand. People wanted this class. They gave me the prime times. Now it became so popular we were turning people away, and then we had a 4:30 and then we had a 5:30 class. But what's interesting, Kevin, people lined up an hour before just to reserve a spot for that 5:30 class.
And you're teaching the class.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're teaching 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. I'm assuming.
No, just 4:30 and the 5:30. So we did like Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I can't remember if it was a weekend.
So you're burning 1,000 calories too every time 2,000. You'd be doing 2 double classes.
Yeah.
So your calorie intake would have been.
Yeah. Yeah, I really got ripped. Mm-hmm.
There you go. I really got
Right?
ripped. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now let's talk the 5:30 class. Okay. The 5 o'clock class, whatever class that is at back then, and then the Get Ripped class at 4 o'clock. Now, yes, you said the difference is that we're lifting weights, but what was the class that they were doing at that time that they thought is all that in a bag of chips, and then all of a sudden the new and improved Get Ripped class. Like, what are you doing different than what that other class was?
At the time, we weren't. Why would I? Because I'm seeing different people.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? But what I can tell you is we tested the instructors because I couldn't teach all the classes.
Mm-mm.
We tested the instructors and they had amazing results. Amazing. But what ended up happening is when we retested them, they plateaued. And a plateau is where you stop seeing the results. You're not seeing improvements. And that's when, we created intervals. Now I'm going to add intervals with compound exercises and, add a little bit more spice. So that's how I came up with the 5-phase periodized Get Ripped program, so that we're always constantly taking the body out of people's weight loss plateau.
So, but the other class at 5 o'clock, what are they doing?
So if I was teaching, let's say...
No. Just pretend that you're not teaching that class.
Okay.
It's something. So they just asked you to come on. We're going to give you the 4 o'clock class.
Well, they gave, it was 4:30.
Okay, the 4:30 class, so that you're starting it off for the first time. Mm-hmm. What was the other class? Like, was it what would they call it? What was the ones they call now the hard class, or there's something like the cardio class versus the stretching class versus this? What class was that?
Well,
did they have weights in there?
So we were teaching ripped at 4:30 and
Yeah.
then at 5:30.
No, but did you have ripped at 5:30?
Yes.
Oh, so they did. So
Yes.
everybody had ripped.
Yes, because people lined up an hour before.
But before that?
4:30 was packed. No, they didn't have. I don't know what they had after. Like,
because when you got there, you're introducing ripped for the first time for the 4:30 class. You had 5 people going there.
Yeah.
Nobody even seen ripped
No.
before. Had no idea that this was even a possible.
right?
So what does that look like?
Well, I will. It was really chaotic. I had no idea that it would be as successful as it was because I wasn't doing it for the money.
Right.
I did it because I was passionate about it and I wanted to share the love. And that's how we created the 5-phase periodized program, so that, people adapt to exercise as little as 20 workouts. If I keep running that 10K intensity where I'm running, let's say, Edworthy, and it's just flat, I'm not going to get improvements. Where I'm going to get the improvements if I add some hill or if I add some speed work, right? So that's how, if I did a 4:30 Get Ripped, let's say it's a strength series, and then the 5:30 would be Get Ripped intensity, where it's, cardio and weights, then, people wouldn't get bored, right? Because we were always changing it up.
And did they have interval back then? I'm going to the 80s.
Nope.
Did they have interval like treadmills?
Nope.
They didn't.
Nope.
You know
Nothing.
what we should do now, which will be absolutely, is a really deep dive
Sure.
into the Get Ripped business model and the hardship and how you did that. Because one of the greatest things, failures to success to getting beat down.
Yeah.
What it must have been one of the most difficult problems
sure.
that you've had.
Yes.
Join us on the next episode, Shed Talk.
Now you know. Shed Talk.